Welcome to possibly the least anticipated tournament of the year. It is the Leicester University Bloodbowl League. So this is now a thing. We'll be playing with 6 different teams over a number of weeks. We're going to be doing a double round robin tournament, and we're also going to have a cup as well. So let's get straight into the teams and see what we can see. Right, so the first team that we're going to have a look at here is Team Timo Brennan, entered by Brennan, and he's gone for a Pro Elf team, a very fast, very agile team, possibly the best catching team in the game, and in this tournament it's, I think, going to do rather well. It's a very bright anyway. Yeah, so he's gone for a fairly standard lineup with this team. He's gone for 2 catchers, only 1 thrower, which seems fairly reasonable. I think the Pro Elves can only take 2 blitzers, so taking 2 there is a good option. He's not fallen into the trap of taking more than 2 catchers because firstly, their value makes them probably a little bit overpriced for a 1,000 team value limit. It might be worth buying some later on in the tournament just to increase the amount of pressure on defending teams. That could be an option for him. But I think he's done well, only taking 2. Again, he's got lots of linemen, which is good for most elf teams. They're above average. They're only strength 7 and only armor value 7, but agility 4 across the board makes this team something to be reckoned with. Sad that he hasn't done special names. It would have been nice to see some funny ones, but never mind. Right, so he's gone for a reroll, 2 rerolls and no apothecary. Now, personally, he has 50,000 in the treasury here. Now, he might be saving up for an extra lineman. But as an elf team, seeing the rest of the teams that have been entered, I think that the apothecary should be his first option, because if one of these catchers gets injured or killed in the first game, then he's going to be at a serious disadvantage for the rest of the season, because those apothecaries will only get more expensive to buy. From what I know of the experience of Brennan, he's fairly new to Blood Bowl, as with everyone else in this league. But compared to the rest of the league, I think he's played more than most, and I think he'll do okay with this team. It's going to be very difficult to tie down, and I think he'll be scoring a lot, and depending on whether he can play defensively solid, I think he'll do quite well. Okay, taking a look at the next team, we have the Lords of Dumb, entered by Higgy. Now he's playing a Nurgle Chaos team, and me and him actually had quite a long chat about his team before he made it, and the debate was essentially between how many Nurgle warriors he should be running. Now, personally, I think he should have gone 4 Nurgle warriors and saved the Beast of Nurgle, but he was adamant on having that. And so this is how his team's turned out. He's got 11 players, which is fine, seeing as though that the lowest armor value in his team is 8. Also, Rotters are very, very cheap to replace, and Pestigores too are actually not that bad. The reason why, when discussing with him why he should take more Nurgle Warriors, I think the reason why he should take more is that once the league starts, it's going to cost him 110,000 to get a bare bones Nurgle Warrior, with no block, no mighty blow, no claw, no nothing. So these guys are going to be... all chaos are tough to level up and get the relevant skills on at the best of times. But when you're in a league which is only going to be running for a couple of weeks, that's even harder. And then to have to go and buy a warrior halfway through the league, the chances are the 4th warrior that he buys is probably only going to be maybe level 2 by the last week of the tournament, and that's where he might struggle a little bit. The Beast of Nurgle is still a really, really good guy. Tentacles makes it fantastic on the front lines, and also it has Mighty Blow to help it kill stuff, and Foul Appearance and Disturbing Presence as a good defense strategy. So I'm not saying this is a bad strategy, it's a perfectly reasonable one. And he still has his Pestigores that he can use as blitzers because they all come with horns. And overall, actually, it looks a fairly solid team. If I was to criticise him, I would say perhaps one less Rotter and one more Pestigore. Rotters should be there to hold people up like a tar pit, and also to allow things like warriors to get 2 dice block on bigger guys like other Chaos Warriors. They should be there as support. With regards to rerolls, the Necromancer, the Nurgle Warriors get for free, and that allows them to reroll their regeneration rolls, which can be very useful. However, he doesn't get it for his Rotters, and again, this is another reason why perhaps it's good to only take 3, seeing as though that everything else on his team can take regen, and it's nice to be able to use it on as many things as possible. He only has 1 reroll, which for a Chaos team is less worrying. However, 2 rerolls is nicer. It's much nicer to have maybe up to 3 rerolls, but certainly not to start with. But I think if he saves his reroll and if he uses it wisely, then I think he'll be okay. Because he gets a free Necromancer, so that's always nice. He has 60,000 here, so in his first game he can he gets inducements of around 60,000, so he'll be able to buy himself a Bloodwiser Babe, which can help his team stay up a little bit better. So that could be quite nice. Also, he's very, very close to getting a second reroll or replacing a guy if they get killed in the first game. So that is the Lords of Dumb, entered by Higgy. With regards to his skill levels, I have no idea. When I was chatting to him, it seems that he understood the Chaos Warriors fairly well, and it seemed as though he kind of knew what he was talking about, so he could be quite an interesting pick for the league. You never know. Okay, next we're going to have a look at Borkild's Brutes, entered by Ella Hyrock. Okay, so this is a really, really standard Chaos Warriors team. It's exactly what you'd expect for 1000 team value. He's gone 4 Chaos Warriors and 7 Beastmen. Perfectly legitimate, perfectly standard, and it's perfectly decent as well. So he's got plenty of strength 4 on the board. He's not been tempted to go for a Minotaur, which is fine. However, looking at the other teams again, a lot of the other teams have taken big guys somewhere along the line. So what he's going to have to do is he's going to have to use his Chaos Warriors to try and take out the bigger guys on the opposing team, and hopefully build up towards a Minotaur towards the end of the league, perhaps. He's got all the bare bones of a really good team here. When Chaos Warriors and Chaos can start getting their skills, they can be really, really powerful. So I think this is a good team for him. He's managed to get 2 rerolls in it as well, which will be great. It's 1 more than the Nurgle team had. It's also cheaper than the Nurgle get as well. And he's also bought an Apothecary. So this is a really, really strong start. From the way this team's built up, I reckon that Ella Hyrock's got a good chance of doing well in this tournament. And I think he's going to be difficult to break down and beat. Okay, so next we have Squeaking Intensifiers, entered by One Hand Stan. So, this is a Skaven team, and again, nothing too crazy. Got 2 Storm Vermin, which is good. He's got 2 Gutter Runners, again not falling into the trap of taking too many, because if you take 4 Gutter Runners, for example, you may fall into problems when leveling up, because you have 4 different possibilities to score with just on your scoring options, and therefore the SPP is going to get spread around, and perhaps they may not level up as quickly as if you only have 2. He's gone for 2 throwers, which personally I think he can only do. He only needs 1, because again you have the problem of the SPP being split between the 2 of them. And in my personal opinion, I would rather have 1 thrower with very good skills on it, who's very versatile, than two throwers who are perhaps not quite as good and perhaps a little bit more specialised. Plenty of linemen, exactly what you'd expect. And when we come down to rerolls, apothecary and bits, I'll explain why perhaps I would have a lineman instead of a gutter runner. So if he were to take a lineman instead of a thrower, then he would have 20,000 extra from getting rid of the thrower, and then he can get rid of some of these things. He's bought 3 cheerleaders and an assistant coach. Now, some people think that assistant coaches and cheerleaders are worthwhile taking. Personally, I think perhaps one combined is worth taking, because if someone has none of them, then you just get that +1. It's just a nice thing to have, and it's not too expensive. But here, I think to spend probably 30,000 more than you need to. I think you only need one cheerleader at the most, and you probably don't need assistant coaches, as assistant coaches only really affect 1 or 2 roles in the match. And so if you'd have taken the 20,000 away from the thrower to change that to a lineman, then you take another 30,000 from here. That gives you another lineman, or it gives you another lineman, or it just gives you 50,000 in the bank ready to bring back someone if you need it. So that's just my personal opinion. But all in all, this is not a bad team at all. Gutter runners are clearly fantastic characters to have, fantastic stat line. He's going to have to be careful about getting beaten up though, because they are also the weakest things in the league. So if he can use his gutter runners well, I think this could be a very difficult team to break down, and it could score an awful lot of goals. Okay, let's move on to the New Age Overlords by Overlord 59, with all his Bobs and Reggies and Benjamins and Sammys, etc., etc. So, this human team is a very interesting one. He's gone for a big guy straight up. He's gone for the expensive ogre. So that suggests that this team is going to be fairly punchy. He's going to rely on punching people fairly often to get the most value out of that ogre. This is why I'm not quite certain about having 2 throwers and 2 catchers. I think you can get away with just having one of each on a punchy human team. Then because it gives you a target, it gives you a ball carrier, and it just gives you direction without having to sacrifice too much versatility. Because if we look down here, he's only got 2 linemen. Obviously, whilst linemen can do any role, you need more to give yourself the ability to put lots of different skills on them all over the place. So perhaps one with guard, one with block, one with dodge, maybe one with sure hands, and for that you need more linemen. And again, as with the Skaven team, you can probably, if you drop a thrower and drop a catcher, you can take 2 extra linemen and you have an extra 40,000. All you need to do then is perhaps take off a cheerleader, get yourself an apothecary, and then you're all set. That's my personal opinion. I think that's a better way of going, because armor value 8 is good. It's about average, but it can be broken down. You can get a few unlucky results. If you lose a blitzer early in your first game, it could be quite an expensive hole to fill in your team, and it's just nice to have that safety net of having an apothecary just there ready. But all in all, this is going to be quite a difficult team to break down. It's going to be quite nice to play this team earlier on in the league, I think, because if this ogre levels up and gets guard and block, then that's going to be an absolute nightmare to kill. Likewise with his throwers and his catchers, he's going to be able to have sprint, sure feet, etc. on those, and they're going to be much harder to beat. And now we come to the final team in the league, Wombo Combo, coached by myself. So this is my Lizardman team. As you can see, I've gone for an incredibly punchy team. I've gone for 6 Saurus Warriors and a Croxagore straight up in the first game of the season. Why have I done that? Well, I'm not going to tell you my tactics for the league, because A, they'll probably be wrong, B, they'll probably change throughout the day, and C, I don't want anyone else to know about them, certainly not my opponents. So, 6 Saurus Warriors gives this team really great punching power, probably more than any other team in the league, certainly at the beginning of the season. Once the Chaos teams start getting more Chaos Warriors and start getting Minotaurs involved, then the balance might shift, but nonetheless this team has 7 Strength 4 or Strength 5 throughout. Added to the fact that they're all Movement 6 or Movement 8, that makes for a really, really good running team. So if this team gets the ball and manages to break free, it's going to be very difficult to catch. With an armor value of 9 as well, it's going to be very difficult to injure and kill this team on the line. They're all able to stand up and take hits. It's going to take a concerted effort to break down the front of this team, especially when these Saurus start getting block and guard on. So I've gone for a Croxagore straight up instead of maybe a Skink or two and I don't know, something else. And the reason I've done that is, again, I want to get skills on it nice and early. Also, I want to give my opponents something scary to think about. With 2 Strength 4s and a Strength 5 on the front line at the beginning of the game, as a bare minimum, people are going to have to put a lot of resources into trying knocking that out. And even when they do knock that out, so say they take out 2 Saurus and the Croxagore, there are still 4 more Saurus waiting on the second row. And then you can just use the Skinks to pick up the ball, try and sneak the ball, also to help into tackle zones to give the Saurus Warriors Strength 5, Croxagore Strength 6. So that's how this team I think is going to play. I've gone for 1 reroll and 1 apothecary. I could have gone for 2 rerolls and no apothecaries, but I decided that it would be if a Saurus or a Croxagore dies in that first game, that'll be a massive blow for the team, and as a result, it's again just nice to have the safety of an apothecary just to give myself a little bit more of a chance. Those of you who know me know I am quite unlucky, so I wouldn't be surprised if I lost 2 Saurus Warriors in the first game due to being killed and beaten up by elves or something. And again, 1 reroll, which I'm going to have to use fairly carefully, but I think I trust myself to not to use it too quickly or too rashly. Okay, let's take a look. Oh, if any of you are noticing why I seem to have stolen Krendor's Skink from the Game Station's Blood Bowl team, you're right, I've stolen it. I decided that I need all the luck that I can get, and so Little Skittles was the luckiest player that I could find. Okay, let's look at the calendar. So, first things first. First match of the season. Well, we have Team Wombo Combo versus the New Age Overlords. This, I think, is going to be an interesting game. You've got clearly a more powerful team in Wombo Combo. However, New Age Overlords, which was the human team, has possibly a more well-developed team, and they're going to have to use that to their advantage. They're going to try and have to use the block to their advantage, and they're going to have to use the ogre very carefully, because that ogre could get ganged up upon very quickly by all the Strength 4 Saurus Warriors. We have also the Lords of Dumb versus One Hand Stand, so that is the Chaos Warrior team versus the Skaven team. And again, it's the same situation. The Skaven team, Squeaky Intensifies, is going to have to use its skills to get around the Chaos, because they're not going to be able to beat them off the pitch, because they haven't bought a Rat Ogre. Whereas the Chaos Warriors are going to try and have to bog down the Skaven, they're going to have to try and get them into a punching war, and then they'll just win. Again, the only thing though is no block on the Chaos team, but then again, there's only 2 block on the Skaven team. So I think this particular match will come down to how much the Chaos Warriors can tie down the Skaven, and whether the Gutter Runners, more importantly, can get past that Chaos line. Because once they're past the Chaos line, they'll easily score very, very quickly, and the game could run away from Higgy. So last game of the first week is Brennan's Tim O'Brennan versus Alahyrox Borkill Brutes. This is another interesting game. You have the speed and agility of Pro Elves versus another Chaos team. And again, it's a little bit of a cliche, but the Pro Elves are going to have to use the skills that they start with, catch, nerves of steel, dodge, etc., to get around the fact that they are going to be outpunched. And I think Brennan will have to be very careful where he places his players. But again, as with the Skaven team, if he can get players past and if he can get throwing and create a very open game, I reckon they'll do quite well and they could score an awful lot. So the message of this first week, I think, is that the teams without the skills, so that'll be Wombo Combo, Lords of Dumb and Borkil's Brutes, I think if they can get each team into a punching war, then they should do quite well. However, if they're opposing teams, New Age Overlords, Squeaking Intensifies, and Tim O'Brien can keep the game open and keep it into a passing and running game, then they should be fine. So the matches should be finished by the end of this weekend, so another video should go up within the next few days or so. I will post videos of my own matches. Also, I will do weekly roundups of what happened where, who did what, and if any of the other players do video captures of their own games, I will of course link you to where they have put them, and I will also be doing highlights on this particular channel as well. So thank you for watching. Hope you join me next time in the Leicester University Blood Bowl League.